We believe this is outrageous because we believe there is the talent and the expertise within the NHS, within both managers and within clinicians, in order to manage the NHS in the way that we would all wish.
Last year, outside consultants gave advice on corporate strategy and helped with IT and computer systems. Lawyers were brought in to iron out NHS contracts. Marketing and communications people helped with media handling and advertising. Architects and surveyors were hired for building projects.
The Department of Health's figures show that the money spent on outside consultancies was virtually the same as spending for lung and skin cancer services combined, or the equivalent of employing 10,000 nurses. Ministers say it's another example of waste by the last government. But health managers insist that consultants do sometimes save money.
There's a huge programme of change initiated by the last government to improve the way that primary care trusts work, but also to respond to the financial pressure to save £20 billion over the next 3 years. So bringing in expertise to help do that did actually add some value, and I think to describe this as completely wasteful is really inaccurate.
The government wants to make big cuts in overall management costs in the NHS, but Labour say the coalition's health reforms will create more waste and give big consultancy firms a field day. Ben Geoghegan, BBC News.
The Deputy Prime Minister Nick Clegg has defended going into coalition with David Cameron during a public Q&A session. Mr Clegg was accused of supporting brutal social policies and responded by asking voters to give the coalition a chance. He also denied reports that the former Liberal Democrat leader Charles Kennedy is about to defect to Labour. Andy Moore reports from Bristol.
Have you spoken to Mr Kennedy, Mr Clegg?
Nick Clegg said he wanted to get out of the Whitehall bunker to face the music personally. He certainly did that. From the audience in Bristol, there were difficult, sometimes trenchant questions about spending cuts and the future of the coalition.
What I would like to ask, is this marriage going to end amicably, or is it going to be like Cheryl Cole, you could be screaming that I have been betrayed? Betrayed.
Yes, of course, this coalition government is composed of two different parties with different viewpoints, but still, I think, together you can do good things in a coalition.
One question he wasn't asked by members of the public was about rumours that former Lib Dem leader Charles Kennedy is defecting to Labour. Not surprisingly, the Labour Party has been making the most of the reports.
I think that actually the Liberal Democrats, led by Nick Clegg, are betraying the tradition of the Liberal Democrat Party, or the Liberal Party, certainly. And I want those people who are disaffected, who are unhappy by what is happening, to look again at Labour.
Charles Kennedy himself hasn't made a public statement, but he has been in touch with his leader.
I don't think I can do better than quote Charles himself, who said it's the silliest of the silly season stories in August. It's just nonsense, and I think we shouldn't waste too much time talking about things which just simply aren't true. I'm not clear.
To those repeated questions about where the axe would fall on public spending, Nick Clegg said there were difficult decisions ahead, but the coalition would try to be as fair as possible. Andy Moore, BBC News, Bristol.
England have lost the third test against Pakistan after a tense finish at the Oval. Their batsmen could only add one run to the overnight score, leaving Pakistan to chase a modest 148, and they did it with 4 wickets to spare. Joe Wilson has the details.
A day which became gripping began softly. Fourth ball of the morning, Broad gone, England all out, and that left Pakistan a mere 148 to win the match in 2 days. They tried to do it in 2 hours. The crash-bang-wallop approach carries risks, but it worked.
That's the way.
Captain Salman Butt made 48. The game was up, or so it seemed. At 124 for 3, Pakistan only had to stay calm and avoid anything silly, like a run-out. 4 down. Make it 5. Anderson charging in at one end, Swans spin at the other. Was that the 6th wicket? LBW? Umpire? Please? Now the dressing room was worried. Just 16 runs to win, but tension everywhere. With patient resolve, 18-year-old Mohammad Amir guided Pakistan home alongside Umar Akmal, who's 20. For such a youthful side, this victory meant the world. Joe Wilson, BBC News.
And that's it. I'll be back with more from the newsroom at 10:15 on BBC One. Now it's time to join our news teams where you are. Have a good evening.